In chess, the English opening is one of the best ways to play with white. So first question, what is the English? On move 1, white plays c4. And after this move, there are just so many ways for black to respond. So let's check them out one at a time. I will be looking at some of black's most popular setups. The point of this move is you are controlling a key central square, the d5 square. Black goes e5. This is one of the main ways to play. Knight c3, you control d5 and e4. Black goes knight f6 and now knight f3 attacking the pawn. Black goes knight c6 and this is the way I suggest you play the English. You go g3, bishop g2, castle and you're good. Just going back to this point, if you've never seen this before, you might have been asking why not push. It's because knight g5 and you are going to lose that pawn. If they defend it with the queen, now you can attack it with the queen as well. So you can't do this. Going back a few moves here, black goes knight c6 and now g3. Bishop c5, bishop g2 and now castle, castle. d6. Pawn chain in the center and white does the same in English with d3. Now in this position, we've got a couple of pawn chains for each side. White has this annoying move, bishop g5, to pin the knight to the queen, so black can play h6. And in this position, there are so many arrows, let me explain all of them. So one idea is for white to get space on the queen side with a3, b4. When that happens, you give yourself another option to put the bishop on b2. How do we unleash this bishop? Well, we might retreat the knight back. So then this bishop is very active on this diagonal. This knight can hop into the center, and this rook can shuffle along to b1 to c1. So let's just put a bit of this into action. So let's say you go rook b1, getting ready with a3 and b4. a6, a3. Black can get the bishop out. You can go b4, h3, attack the bishop, and then we can play from here. A few other ideas are now available. a4, b5 to get space. To get more space, bishop out to d2 to e3, and we had this idea before as well. The knight can come in the center. If you want to keep your king a little bit safe, you can always tuck the king on h2, so then it guards both pawns. You actually see this idea in the English often. Let's go to another line. c4, c5, the symmetrical English. Knight f3, knight f6. The two moves to bear in mind are c4 and knight f3. This is the setup I am going to be focusing on in this video. And then sometimes we are going to play g3. Let's say they play b6. We are going into an opening called the Hedgehog. Bishop g2, bishop b7, castle e6. So we are very safe already. Knight c3, bishop e7 and now d4. This is a nice way to play. You open up the center for your pieces take, and now a cool option is to take with the queen. I don't want you to play knight d4 because, well, bishops come off. I want you to keep more tension in the position. So we're going to take with the queen to avoid that trade, and we are going to follow up. Let me explain these arrows. b3, and then the bishop can come out to b2 or even to a3. The rook can come in the middle. So let's put this into action. Let's say they go d6. So with another pawn here, we are actually facing the hedgehog. b3, a6, and now bishop a3 is another option. Castle, rook d1, and a lot of ways to play for white. Let me explain every arrow. So this bishop targets this pawn, along with the queen and the rook. Now one idea in these hedgehog positions is this queen can actually just step out the way with queen e3. When you do that, the knight can also come to e4, the rook can also go to c1. So we're putting a lot of pressure in the center. Now after this move, knight e8 needs to be played to defend the d6 pawn, and then you can just sidestep with the queen. And notice, because this knight has moved out the way, this knight can come in the middle. And we can follow it up with rook c1 as well. White's got a lot of space in these kind of hedgehog positions. Let's go for another setup. c4, knight f6, knight f3. Here we go again. The two moves. Now they play g6. When they commit this move, I suggest you play b3, because then you are also competing on this diagonal. Bishop g7, bishop b2, castle, and now g3. Let's say they are a King's Indian player, so they might go d6. Now when they do that, they are threatening e5, so I want you to go d4. And if they go e5, then they are clearly aware of this tactic, because you can still play it. Take, knight g4, just get your pieces out. Bishop g2, castle. They can play knight c6 because this pin is going nowhere, castle, and now knight takes e5. And in this position, in my opinion, it is just so difficult to play with black. Black is now threatening knight takes check to win the bishop, so you block it with knight c3. And I really like white's position. So what's happening here? Queen can come out to d2 to defend the bishop. When that happens, the knight can sit in the middle. White has space in the center. Put your rooks there. The reason white has a lot of space is because this pawn is controlling the d5 square. When these knights get traded off, then this bishop is very powerful. I really like this good, simple way to play with white against the King's Indian. Let's go for another setup. Maybe they play the Slav. They go c4 and then c6. Same. Knight f3. And after d5, let's mix it up. Let's go e3 this time. And after knight f6, b3. So, bishop b2, queen c2, bishop d3, and even this creative move, rook g1 to go g4, g5. Very aggressive way to play. And this is a modern way to play. e6, bishop b2, or queen c2, doesn't matter. Bishop b2, and now rook g1. Let's go. Let's just attack the guy. And it is a nice way to attack. You haven't even sacrificed anything. The knight can come out to c3. You can castle. Just something important to talk about is white hasn't played d4 yet. So this diagonal is still open. Bear this idea in mind when you play this setup. Let's say they go knight d7. Let's go g4. Let's go. All these arrows I've just explained, even throw in h4, h5 as well. Knight e4, knight c3, take, and we can play from here. The other bishop can come to d3, we castle queenside, let's go. Another way to play, so we have c4, c6 again, we have this again, and bishop g2, bishop f5, and after e6, well, here we go again. Very simple way to play. Most of the time you have seen in this video I'm recommending the double fianchetto, where you put the bishops on g2 and b2. d3, bishop b2, knight d2, the knights defend each other, very nice, just like black. Bishops here, a3, b4, let's get space. I just want to show you this really cool setup. a3, and let's say black plays a normal move like h6, give the bishop some space, and rook c2. The reason I want to talk about this is because I saw Richard Rapport use this against Magnus Carlsen. You play rook c2 and then the queen actually goes to a1. Queen in the corner, the queen on a1 with the bishop on b2 are now controlling the e5 square. It's actually a very creative way to play. So let's say they go b5, queen a1. You've got this battery lined up. The rook can come to c1. We can capture either way, so then the two rooks are now open. A cool setup. Let's go for another one. Maybe they are a Dutch player. So here we go again. Knight f3 and now g3, bishop g2. Maybe they are a Stonewall player. Stonewall is when they put lots of pawns on light squares. So how to react to this? I suggest you play d3. Never worry about this capture. Queens come off, it doesn't matter because this pawn is backward. It is so weak. So we're going to play d3. b3, bishop b2, no surprise, and now it's because black's pawns are all on light squares, we are going to hit it with e4. So queen e8 is a normal move in the Dutch, planning to come out, we are going to strike. And something's going to blow up here, and then our pieces are going to enter the game. If they take knight g5, it's just so strong. And if they ignore it, I think that just loses a piece to e5. Let's go for another setup. What if they play b6? Now, we can go knight f3, g3 just like last time, but when you get to a higher level, I feel it's okay to punish your opponent straight away. b6 might not be the best move because of this cool setup. You go d4, bishop b7, the point is you control e4, knight c3, planning to go e4, e6, this is an annoying good move, planning to go bishop b4, and you just take a move out and you play a3. You stop the bishop coming out. So if black plays f5, so it looks like a Dutch now, or knight f6, we go d5. This is the key move. And if they get their bishop out somewhere, maybe bishop d6, bishop e7, now we go knight f3, g3, something like this. Bishop g2, castle. We get space with b4. This knight can come in the center, so then this bishop is in the game. This rook can come to c1 as well. Once this bishop has moved to b2, or it can even come out to f4, lots of possibilities. And this position is just so cramped for black. If we go back a few moves, what's another option? Knight f3. So we get d5 in anyway, and now e4. And the point is you actually get the bishop out to d3 to defend your center, and then you can castle. Just another way to play. If they break it up, we can still castle. And black cannot take in the center. Take, 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 and now we have bishop takes h7 check. Very nice clearance sacrifice. White is not down a pawn because he's going to get back, and he has a wonderful position. Bishop f4 attacking this weakness. The rooks can come in the middle. Knight g5 check as well. Let's go for another setup. A trickier move order, you could say, because maybe they play g6 straight away. Now, you can play knight f3, g3, just sensible moves, but another way to take this on is d4. And if they go bishop g7, e4, I suggest you just get 3 pawns in the center. If they go c5, you can go knight f3 to defend it, or you go d5. And then we're going to follow up with bishop d3, knight f3, castle. If they play this, which is a tricky move order I face, that's why I'm sharing it in this video, knight c3. Knight c6, they attack the center, but now a cool move here is knight e2. So you are defending this pawn with the knight, queen, and the bishop. You don't want to go knight f3, which looks like the normal move is, because this is annoying. You don't want this pin. That's why it's actually nice to play knight e2, because black doesn't have this, because now you got f3 and you support your center. If they strike in the center, d5. If they come in the center, do not take the knight. Just attack it with bishop e3, because with this move you are forcing them to take you. They can't play c5 because en passant. And if they do this, then this is so weak. Queen d2, rook d1, also knight b5 attacking it. And if they take this way, they have just lost a pawn all of a sudden. Bishop e3, take, take, and white has a great position. So let me explain every arrow. Why does white have a wonderful position? White is already in time to play c5 to open up the queen side. Back it up with a rook. This knight can come to b5 to attack c7, and you're ready to castle. Also queen d2 looks good. Queen d2, bishop e3 looks good. Let's go again. c4, c5, symmetrical. Knight f3, knight f6, and after g3, let's say instead of b6 they go e6. They get space in the center. Bishop g2, d5, take, take, d4, and let's pause here. White is also staking their claim in the center. You're going to go knight c3 to put pressure on the central knight. The central pawn, I mean. You can also put more pressure with the bishop out to g5 to pin the knight to the queen, and you're going to castle. So let's put this into action. Bishop out, castle, castle, knight c3, knight c6. And one option in these kind of positions is you play bishop, you play pawn takes pawn, and you might even go bishop g5. We've got this pin. This rook can come onto the c file. a3, b4 as well, just like we saw before, getting space in English. And this pawn is a target. Let's go for another setup. c4, knight f6, knight f3. Here we go again. e6, g3. Again. d5, bishop g2, bishop e7, castle, castle. If you guys want to check out my Catalan video, what I recommend here is you go d4 and then we get a Catalan position. We transpose into these kind of openings. But if you want to play something more that resembles the English, you might want to go b3. Let's say they go b6 or c5, we can go bishop b2. And after bishop b7, we can take. Something like this. Take d4, and then we play this kind of position. The knight can come out to d2 and to e5. The rook can come to c1. And really, we are playing in the center. You might play e3 to defend your pawn. The queen can come out. Queen c2. Something like this. Just going back a few moves, if you guys want to transpose into a Catalan, which is how I would play this position, play d4. And in this video, I'm just going to show you one cool line. Let's say they take the pawn, which is one of the main lines I discussed in that other video. Queen c2. We're going to get the pawn back. But what if they defend it? You break up their structure with a4. What if they defend it again? Which is not the best way. You can take, and now white is completely winning with knight g5. This bishop attacks the rook. The queen and knight now threaten mate, and there's no good way to stop it. If you block with the knight, checkmate. All of a sudden. And if you block the checkmate, then you lose the rook. Here we go again, another setup. c4, knight f6, knight f3, e6, g3. d5, very similar to the previous setup, but now black might take the pawn. Now in these kind of positions, I want you to get your pawn back with queen a4 check. Let's say they block with the pawn, and now you take. Black can follow up with bishop e7, castle, but an aggressive way for black to play is b5. And then you tuck the queen back, they might put the bishop here, the game goes on. So let's discuss every arrow. When the queen is on c2, it's very well placed, because you're putting pressure on that pawn. Once this knight moves out the way, d4, knight e5, you can play this move that I mentioned before, a4, just to break up the structure, and you are ready to castle. c4, e5, we have the main line, so knight c3 first, and knight f3 and g3. So one main response for black is d5, striking in the center. So you're going to face this. Take, bishop g2, threatening knight takes e5, a nice tactic to be aware of. They normally retreat the knight out the way, and in this position, so many ways to play. So many arrows, let me explain it with a few setups. So b3, bishop b2, that's one option. d3, bishop e3 is another option. The knight can come to e4 to c5. We can get space with a3, b4, back it up with rook c1 to control the c file. So let's just pick one line. Let's say we go rook b1, threatening a nice tactic with knight takes pawn. So if you castle, we can actually play b4. If you take, knight takes. This tactic works out very well for white. Take, and the position has just opened up for white. It's a very nice way to play the English. So rook b1 is a nice move. If they know this move, they might play a5 to stop it, and then we can play from here. d3, bishop e3, knight can come to a4, the rook might come to c1, and we play from here. Knight can come into e4 to c5 once the rook is here. Normal pressure on the c file in English. Let's look at another option. You might go a3 and then d3. a3 is to go b4, so they might stop you with a5, and now after d3, bishop e3 and rook c1. So 1, 2, that's one option. Knight e4 to c5 is another option if black doesn't have a pawn there. The queen can come out to c2, rook d1 is possible as well. So let's say f5, knight a4, let's challenge this knight. If they take, queen could come out, and lots of options here. This knight can reroute, which it normally does in English. So then this bishop is now in the game. We've got pressure on the c file. Maybe we double with rook c2, rook c1. And then we play from here. One move order I want to talk about is this. If c4, you do give black this option of playing e5. But if you don't want to face e5, you can play knight f3 first. And if they go knight f6 or any other move, now you can play c4. So this is a cool move order if you want to avoid this line in English. Have I covered every single line? No, but I've covered most of the lines. Thanks a lot to a subscriber who suggested to look at the English. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like because it really does help out the channel. I am building a community, so if you guys want your games analysed, then post them in the comments below. Do you have any openings or gambits you want me to look at? Or refutations to those gambits? then let me know in the comments below. If you guys want to stick around, I've got a couple of suggestions over here. How to play the Caro-Kann defense with black. And we also have YouTube's selection over here. Thanks for watching.